Hey guys, welcome to another flying video out of PDK. Unlike all my other videos so far, this one's a little bit different because I'm not actually the one flying. A friend of mine named David was somewhat interested in flying, and so I ended up hooking him up with a discovery flight with my flight school. So this is actually his first time flying a plane like this. He's sitting in the left seat, and my instructor Alec is sitting in the right seat. So without further ado, let's get to it. He actually got to make a ground call before we started taxiing. Sounds like this.
N6919J, Peachtree-Dekalb ground 3 left station via Bravo Alpha 500 feet. 3 left Bravo Alpha advise.
The audio is a little choppy, and I don't know why it was coming in so broken, but he basically was saying we're doing VFR to the southwest, and the ground controller told us taxi to runway 3 left via Bravo and Alpha. So right now we're on Bravo, and we're waving at some of the people at the park over on the right, and then taking a right here off of Bravo onto taxiway Alpha. We weren't sure which way to go here. We were a little distracted by the people over on the right, but we got it. And actually at this point, David is the one steering, so he's actually flying the plane, well, driving the plane. Just getting a feel for how it is. It's not as intuitive as it feels. It's kind of backwards from what you might expect.
No problem.
This is actually my first time in the back of one of these planes, so I was in the back right seat, taking some pictures and recording. This is on the GoPro.
Did Christian take you by the house by chance? Not yet. Yeah, my discovery. Oh yeah.
You can kind of hear me in the background talking about my discovery flight. I did one of these, geez, like 4 years ago? 4 years ago, 5 years ago, like 2016, 2017, and that was how I got introduced to this too. A lot of flight schools do that, so if you're remotely interested in aviation, check out flight schools in your area and see if they do any sort of like a discovery or an introduction flight.
Are we taxiing slowly because I'm delaying, or this is at speed you're normally taxiing? Yeah, this is normally the speed that we taxi. Normally I like to keep it to like a light jog, but depending on what your jog is. As long as we don't see anything here on our airspeed. Yeah, if your airspeed starts going live on the taxi.
Yeah, there's not really a speed limit on the taxiways, but as you get over here, if your airspeed comes alive, which is usually like 20 or 25 knots, that's way too fast. You're not supposed to. You don't want to take off from the taxiway. So what we're about to do is called the run-up. This is what most general aviation planes, the smaller Cessnas and Cherokees and Barons, will all do one of these run-up procedures before taking off. It's basically simulating a takeoff while you're still on the ground to see if the oil pressure, oil temperature, fuel pressure, magnetos, basically checking all of the systems to make sure that if we were taking off, they would be fine. And this is actually, in front of us, November 103 Alpha Victor is Annie, one of the other Cherokees at Centennial Aviation. So we knew the people over there, so we were waving at them and doing all sorts of silly things. Top Gun reference here.
Alright, let's do our run-up checklist. So do we have a specific amount of Top Gun crap that we're supposed to do?
Yeah, me and Adam do a good bit. It is required.
Okay. And we're not supposed to actually do the engine fire, right? That's just...
We can if you want to.
Okay, run up.
Awesome. So right here, we're gonna do our run-up. So we're gonna take our flight controls. Come all the way back.
So the stabulator, yeah, I'll explain this. There's in the back of the plane, the horizontal stabilizer is combined with the elevator, and so they call it the stabulator.
To the right. So we see that left, right.
Just turn this way, fix it.
It is actually a made-up word.
And then, like, if you're on the right tank and it runs out of gas, you just crash, unless you manually switch it to the left tank. Mixture.
Mixture
Rich.
is this one right here. We're gonna go full rich.
He's rich. What about you?
No, I'm broke at the moment, but he's good. Yeah, well,
Throttle to 2,000.
so we're gonna bring this all the way up to the top.
All right, we gotta actually make the mixture rich now. So that's what we're doing here, just
And
making
now
sure that we get a full amount of fuel into the engine. So normal RPMs at takeoff is closer to 2,500 RPMs, and so we typically get to about 2,000 during the run-up, just to simulate all the systems. Turn that audio down a little bit. It does get pretty loud in there, but fortunately, you can see they have Bose noise canceling headphones on, so that makes a huge difference. At this point, obviously you can't hear what they're saying, but Alec is walking through the different gauges on the right. You can see those horizontal lines that are some yellow and some green, and those are just the different engine indicators. So there's a fuel pressure, oil temperature, and then fuel levels for the left and right tanks. This is checking the magnetos. There are 2 mags on these Cherokees. I assume that's the case for most planes, but I only really know Cherokees. And so you basically, when you're doing the run-up, you turn one off to make sure that if one of the 2 fails, the other one can handle it. So we ended up testing both, making sure that they were off when they were supposed to be off, and then back on when they were supposed to be back on. I think at this point, this is where we see there's like a really cool, huge jet. I mean, not huge, but huge for this airport compared to us. That comes in. I think it's this guy. At some point, we see him come past us.
He's the man.
Well, this might have been the awkward part where the ground controller was telling them to pass us, and they were kind of waiting on us, but we were waiting on them.
They try to park close together to make as much room over here as possible.
Yeah, so that guy, you know the Red Bull air races?
Yeah.
They use those kind of planes.
Unfortunately, I don't think I got a picture of this, but there was a cool tail dragger off to the left. Like a super sporty plane.
End of the wing. So, but whenever this guy takes off, he does basically a ground effect takeoff, right? So where jets will pick it up and leave it really close to the ground. Kind of how high off that guy is right there.
Yeah.
But he leaves it there, gains up airspeed, and then just zooms straight vertical.
Holy shit.
That's what
Yeah, that's a sweet plane. It's a little more expensive than our 1970s or 80s. I think it's like a 78 Cherokee. A little more expensive. That is one of the cool parts about flying out of PDK, though, is that there's all these, you can see one landing right now too, off the left. You get some pretty expensive, really cool Gulfstreams and Citations and Learjets. Some really cool planes.
So whenever you take off, we're gonna line up on our center line on the runway. You're gonna take the yoke with one hand, and the throttle with your other. We're gonna go full power on the throttle, so just bring it all the way to the top.
I'm not super great at identifying them, but if you can look up what type of plane it is from the tail numbers. So that's November 768 Echo, which is a Bombardier CL600. It seats 22 people. And our Cherokee seats 4 people. As long as they're like medium-sized people. We don't want to run into weight and balance issues.
These Discovery flights are brilliant because you automatically find yourself saying, oh,
Oh yeah.
that's what sucked you in, right?
Yep. Once you start, you don't stop. We're still on road. They tell us to
I noticed we didn't hear the call for the person in front of us to cross the runway, and so I was like, we were still listening to the ground frequency. We hadn't switched over to tower yet, but fortunately they hadn't called us, so we're good.
Alright, ready?
No. We're going. Okay. And you're gonna steer us left and right, right?
Good. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go full power.
And just like that, starts pulling back on the yoke, and we're airborne. So we're actually taking off, heading to the north, and because of the way that the winds were, this was runway 3 left. And so you'll see we're about to make a left turn in a little bit, and then we basically will follow Highway 400 down past Buckhead and towards downtown Atlanta. And then we'll take another left and head east towards Stone Mountain, and then fly around Stone Mountain and head back to the field. Forgot that we had some tower audio to play. So this is the tower call that we got on the radio for clearance for takeoff.
Number 69. 3 west, you are clear to take off. Left turn to the southwest, cruise making turn outside of the left crosswind traffic. Roger, we'll make our turn outside that traffic. 3 left, clear for takeoff, southwest. 6919 Juliet.
And then once we get far enough outside the airspace, or at least close to the airspace, and on our way out, we'll get a frequency change approved call, which just means from tower, hey, you don't have to listen to us anymore. We always do anyway, because they're super helpful at PDK Tower.
6919J, no clear traffic to Unit. Delta frequency change approved. See ya. 6919.
See ya. And then it's funny, a little later, we called just to let them know where we were headed. This was not required, but it's just a nice common courtesy to let them know what we're doing.
And Tower 6919 Juliet, I just want to let you know we're going to go down to the stadium and cross the approach path at 3000 over to Stone Mountain, and we'll stay with you on this frequency.
Alright, Juliet, current altitude is above my airspace, so I do appreciate that. If I need you, I'll let you know.
Roger, appreciate it. 6919 Juliet.
I appreciate it.
I appreciate it as well. Echo Zulu, we're on our side left orbits.
Hey, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's always fun when other pilots hop in and enjoy the fun. Everybody was appreciating it. So at this point you can see Buckhead just off to the right, and then downtown Atlanta and Midtown right in front of us off the out of the left side of the cockpit glass. It was nice from my side being able to relax and enjoy, because normally I'm the one flying and I have to be paying attention to where other traffic is and looking for places to land and all sorts of mentally engaging tasks. So I was able to take a couple pictures, enjoy the pretty skyline. It was a beautiful day. The winds were a little choppy, but beautiful visibility. Picture of the stadium. So at this point, we're basically headed due south. And you can actually see kind of off the right, out of the right part of the cockpit, there's Hartsfield Jackson. It's that big concrete kind of gray looking thing. Yeah, right there. That's Hartsfield Jackson. And as you might guess, that's one of the busiest airports in the world, and they have a ton of the airspace in this area. Where we're flying right now, we're actually sandwiched in between. We're basically flying underneath the Class Bravo airspace for Hartsfield Jackson, and you can't go too much further south without running into the next tier of that airspace. So typically we end up turning to go parallel to Highway 20, so you can actually see 20 right there off the nose of the plane. After we turn left, I got another view out the left side of the plane. the downtown Midtown skyline. Alright, so I actually jumped us forward a little bit to Stone Mountain, which is the eastern part of our flight. I'll turn up the cockpit audio, but you mostly just hear the propeller. Oh, actually, this is perfect timing. I didn't even plan this. We on our way here, we were talking about what would happen if the plane failed, and David was asking some kind of safety and security sorts of questions about how safe the airplanes are and statistics. And so that was an example of actually, I think Alec just killed the engine for a little bit just to show, not killed, just turned it to idle, but to show that if the engine were to fail here, he was pointing out all the different places we could land easily. There are a lot of golf courses that way, a couple highways. But it's understandable to be concerned about general aviation and a lot of these smaller planes. Fortunately, I'm still a student pilot, but we get trained and drilled a lot for how to handle certain situations, how to handle engine failures or control failures if your elevators or your ailerons, any of your control systems fail, what to do. Engine fires, cabin fires, electrical fires. You name it, we drill it. Was able to get a nice shot of Stone Mountain off our left wing. Flew around to the other side of Stone Mountain. This is the other angle with the lake. It's a little muddier than I would expect. It's not as pretty as normal. So at this point, we turn back west and start heading back to PDK. So now you can see the field just in front of us off to the left. You can still see Buckhead off to the far left, and that's actually the perimeter area, the King and Queen, just to the right of the center part of the cockpit glass. As we were on our way, we noticed that Annie, that other plane, the other Centennial plane we were doing the run-up with, 103 Alpha Victor, was in front of us. So we ended up making a tower call, let them know that we're headed back to the field and that we wanted to land.
Feature Tower 6919 Juliet, 6 from the east bound, and we have 103 Alpha Victor in sight.
That's good news on our 6919 Juliet, because that's your interview, or interval. Follow 103 Alpha Victor from runway.
Roger, we'll follow company traffic for 3 left 103. Sorry, 6919 Juliet.
That happens all the time because the instructors and the students fly in all three of the planes because they're all so similar that you have to be careful. I make that mistake a lot of just, I'll start saying 103 and then turns out we're actually in 19 Juliet. But fortunately, Tower does the same thing, so I don't feel so bad. So at this point, we're doing part of the arrival checklist. There's a handful of things that you do before you land. I think we probably just saw David switching the fuel tank. These Cherokees have one fuel tank on the left and one on the right that are actually separate, and so you have to manually switch back and forth. Typically you do that about every half hour, 45 minutes of flight time so that the plane stays relatively balanced. And we got a really interesting approach. So it's somewhat uncommon, but we see it every now and then, that we actually fly over the middle of the field, because essentially we're trying to land on 3 left, which means we have to approach from the left of where we are right now. And there's no easy way to get to that approach end without crossing over the approach path of 3 right, which is the one with the jets on it. And you typically don't want to get in the way of those guys. So the typical airport procedure for crossing over the field to get to the correct side of the runway is to overfly the middle, usually about 500 feet above the normal traffic pattern, and then join the regular traffic pattern once you get to the correct side. So that's what we were doing. I was looking for Anya. I don't see her in the frame, but we've been following her. I think we're probably about 2-3 miles behind him. So we got some of the comms of Tower talking to Annie as well.
Victor, your traffic to follow is about to turn base. Only 3 left, clear to line number 2.
Have that traffic in sky, number 2 for 3 left, 103 Alpha Victor.
6919 Juliet, number 3, runway 3 left, clear to line.
19 Juliet.
Major Hotel number 4, runway 3 left, clear to land.
Major Hotel number 4, clear to land, runway 3 left. One check, please.
Wind 010F, 10, gust 16.
Check code 716.
The 3 Alpha Victor, turn left at Bravo, ground.
Whoops, that was a little early. That previous call for a wind check was just to see, as you might guess, what are the winds right now. 010, was it 10 at 10, I think the wind was coming from 10 degrees at 10 knots, and it was gusting, they say gusting 16, which is a little windy. It's not that much worse than what we would normally be in, but it was a little bumpy on our way in. So they cleared us. We were number 3, following 103 Alpha Victor, who was number 2. So at this point, we're on our base leg, about to turn left into final, and they're probably either already landed or just landed. So we're landing runway 3 left, and the winds are coming from 010, which is to our left, which means that it's blowing us to the right, since the wind's going left to right. And that's why it looks like we're coming in at an angle. We actually are coming in at an angle, crosswind landing. It gets a little squirrely in that little spot. Beautiful landing. And then Tower tells us...
The 3 Alpha Victor, turn left at Bravo, ground point 6. See you!
3 left Bravo, ground point 6. Thanks for the compliment. We'll see you.
You got it.
Oh, actually, that wasn't us. That was 3 Alpha Victor. See, I made the mistake again.
Wind 340 at 7, gust 16.
That wasn't us. That was the previous person.
6919 Juliet, turn left taxiway Cali or Bravo, your
That
choice.
was us.
Contact ground, please.
Yeah. And over to ground. 1 Juliet, thank you.
And you just saw Alec switch to ground and is making a call now that just says, hey, we're on Charlie, need to get back to the northwest ramp. So that's the flight. The rest of the video is just taxiing back and hopping out of the plane. But it was a super fun flight. It was fun for me being in the back, getting to relax and enjoy the flight instead of being so occupied flying. And I think David had a really good time too. So I got a couple pictures. This is David with Alec once we got back. And then this is David and me. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video. I lied, we're back. I forgot that I had footage of the shutdown procedure. So this is, we're trying to make this happen, trying to call it the Centennial ramp, but this is the northwest ramp at PDK.
We take it seriously. Granted, there's things that you can do with general aviation where you can, we have not a minimum equipment list, but required equipment, right? But I'm never going to fly a plane that's unsafe.
You can see it was busy. There were way more cars parked here than normal, like triple parked there. Trying not to hit any cars with our wing. Alright, we didn't hit any cars. Masterpiece.
CAA? Centennial Aviation Academy.
And that was Annie, who had landed just in front of us that we parked next to. Turning off the lights and turning off the fuel pump, and then that was the mixture. So once you cut the mixture, there's no more fuel getting to the engine, so it dies. And then that was the alternator and battery that we killed.
Yep.
Now he's taking out
And
the
then we'll pull
keys
it
from
out.
the ignition. So we're good to go.
Yeah, you can put it in that little pouch right there.
Oh,
All right, so that's actually the end of the video.
Do
So,
people
see
steal
ya.
airplanes?